Okay, hello. Today we'll talk about an important and interesting Swiss architect. He was not born in Switzerland, but he lives and works in Switzerland, Christian Kerez. And let's first look at him. He's our contemporary, if I can say so. And let's read a little bit about him. Christian Kerez, born, as you can see, on the 27th of May, 1962, and today is the 27th of May 2023 in Maracaibo. I think this was in Venezuela, or is in Venezuela. Is a Swiss architect, architectural photographer, and an university professor. He actually began by doing architectural photography, and then he opened an architecture office. So Christian Kerez studied at ETH in Zurich and worked with Rudolf Fontana from 1991 until 1993. He worked in the field of architecture or architectural photography and opened in 1993 his own studio in Zurich. Keres has been a visiting professor in design and architecture at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology since 2001, as assistant professor since 2003, and as full professor for design and architecture since 2009. In 2012, he held the Kenzo Tange Chair at Harvard University Graduate School of Design in the United States, of course. At the 15th International Architecture Exhibition at the Venice Biennial, Keres designed the Swiss Pavilion, which we are going to see. Keres photographed by photograph for Valerio Olgiati, Herzog and de Moron, Berson, de Plaz and Miroslav Sik. So he was an accomplished photographer of architecture until he opened his own architecture office. We begin with this work, the Kunstmuseum in Liechtenstein, where he worked with this other firm. It's the Kunstmuseum Liechtenstein, but I see it's in Basel, actually, in Switzerland, 1998, 2000s. And this is the building. An interesting trajectory. You wouldn't expect, an architectural photographer to actually become a builder, to actually build buildings. But this is exactly what happened to him. He doesn't have a signature way of doing architecture. His works are very varied. Some of them seem to be more strictly, like in this building, we have clear-cut prism, modernistic as it is. The material used is one that brings a little bit of fogginess or a little bit of lack of clarity. Otherwise, the geometry of the building is very clear-cut. But he also works in a very different way, and we are going to see examples of this. Now, apartment building in Zurich, 1999, 2003, so 20 years ago. Now, we read here apartment building, but when you look at this, it looks more like a, almost like a large private villa. It's a rather rich, apartment building. Lots of glass and concrete. So this was built 20 years ago. Now, this is a little bit confusing because you look at here and you actually see one apartment, or maybe two apartments. Yes, maybe that's what it is, two apartments per floor, which is rather luxurious. And it's interesting actually to study a little bit the plan. So, it's rather obvious. This is an apartment to the right, sorry, and this one to the left, the other apartment. Although it's not a very tall building, it seems there is an elevator there, but here we are talking about Switzerland, so a well-to-do country. Who'd put an elevator for, 4 floors, including the parking? Not many, no, 4+1, the parking. It's an elemental architecture, kind of like some of the works by Aravena. Elemental indeed, concrete all the way. Now, a schoolhouse from 1999 to 2003, again, built at the same time with that apartment building, if we are to call it so. Here is to be noticed the structure where the columns are not vertical, and you wonder why. Actually, he's experimenting a lot with structures which refuse most of the time to have the predictability of columns being vertical. Otherwise, the enclosure of the building is almost conventional, so to speak. Besides the fact, or maybe this is part of being rather predictable, a lot of glass. So everything is enclosed by large surfaces of glass, which means lots of loss of energy, unless the glass is a special glass, meaning very expensive. But in both cases, it's about a certain level of opulence, where you don't care about the electricity bill, or you don't care about the initial investment in the building, and you can use, especially treated glass. Otherwise, inside, the grayness of concrete. At the time when he built it, concrete was not considered a very polluting material, but these days it is, and we shouldn't neglect this. So, the geometry of the building is rather strict, but the structure seems to bring a little bit of instability, so to speak, a little bit of disorder, just a little bit, a touch of disorder, which is a possible expression of a certain degree of freedom, which is needed in a school. Otherwise, the staircase is very elegant, actually. Now, another school in Zurich in 2002-2009, again, he plays with a vertical parts of the structure, and then he has these slabs of concrete that create very strong horizontal elements in the composition of the building. So essentially, we have 3 powerful elements. We have the horizontal slabs, the concrete slabs. Then we have these triangulations, of the vertical supports. And then we have the enclosure with glass. And this is the building. And it's not a bad building, actually. I like the ornaments on that glass, meaning the bags of the students. So you see, you can obtain ornamentation in this way as well. Ad hoc, additions to the rather generic architectural environment, and it's fine, I think. And then we have another so-called ornament, sorry for expressing myself in this way, where the students welcome the diagonals to, indulge in a little bit of acrobatic postures. impeccably executed. Of course, we are in Switzerland after all. Everything built or done by the Swiss is done very meticulously and very well. I mean, even this parapet done with glass, I think it's finely done, and even aesthetically, you know, many people use glass for parapets, but here at least the glass is not is translucent, not transparent, and you know it's more advisable to be like this. I think this is high quality glass indeed. Christian Keres, Zurich. Is it during the construction? Perhaps, but it's an enticing picture because you can see that despite the apparent repetition and regularity, there is a little bit of a labyrinthical character in the structure of the building, at least seen during the process of building it. There is a model. Here is a model of the structure of the building. The plan, very regular, but because of these diagonals, these triangulations, a certain degree of freedom is evoked. Very rigorous. And here we see how important this structure is, because it brings a little bit of, as I called it, instability or disorder within a system which is otherwise very coherent and, you know, sternly, you know, asserting itself. Interesting work. Good building. House with one wall in Zurich, 2004, 2007. I like its name, a house with one wall. Of course, it has more walls, but you'll understand why he called it a house with one wall. This is the house, again, lots of glass. And as you can see, at that time, in 2004, 2007, winter still existed. Maybe in Zurich still exists, I don't know, but in other parts of the world is slowly disappearing. Huge surfaces of glass. Again, no trouble with the electrical bill, it seems, at least at that time. But otherwise, it's elegant, yes. Elemental architecture. I hope I have here the plan. Let's see. Yes. Well, you see the wall when it says it's a house with one wall. This is the wall, actually, the zigzagging wall that separates these two sides. But I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. It seems like there are two apartments, two houses, two apartments inside the house. I have to see the other plan. Yes. Yes, it's actually an interesting idea, now to have this rift in a way filled in by the wall. So we have this rather monumental wall inside the house. These are opulent houses. These are not for everybody, not for the proletariat, not for the immigrant. And this is the zigzagging wall that you see here. Somebody said, you know, you cannot have, I mean, here you cannot have concrete on the ceiling. Well, what are we looking at here? Concrete on the ceiling? No, that's exactly what we look at. The house with one wall. Christian Keres in Switzerland. An interesting idea to have those triangles in plan, you know, housing perhaps the kitchen, the two kitchens. And you also have the, you know, centralized, this, you know, they are brought together, the pipes and so on. And then you have different systems. So there is a little bit of agitation, so to speak, at this level in the building. House with a lake view 2006, 2013. The same thing, the presence of concrete and a lot of glass. But here also, you know, mimicking so-called traditional or almost traditional roof, which is also expressed inside. Interesting idea to have the floors of the house, you know, in steps, falling, so to speak, falling the way the landscape, the terrain gradually falls. The Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw competition, first prize, 2006, 2014. But for some reason, I don't have here the images, and I apologize. Another competition, another first prize in 2008, no pictures, and I don't know why I don't have pictures. House with the Missing Column, another provocative title, A House with a Missing Column in Zurich, 2009, 2014. Let's see where the missing column was supposed to be. I think we'll understand in the plan. Christian Kerez. Here is the steel structure of this, you know, impressive house and ambitious house. Not the least expensive house in the world, that's for sure. And where was I think when I made this presentation, I did search for the missing column, but I forgot where it was, where, if it was that column, where it was to be. So this photographer really is quite a builder, actually. I have to be a detective now, and I don't think I'm an inspired detective to discover where that missing column was supposed to be. I can't figure it out now. Sorry about this. But maybe you'll discover it searching on the web for this project by Christian Kerez. Housing development project in Sao Paulo, Paraisopolis. This is almost a theoretical project, but expressed in a physical form. And I like very much the welcoming of the, you know, you know, this labyrinthical aleatory movement of small units. It is bringing to the site certain impressionism, although based on geometry, but the fact that the project welcomes an obvious level of aleatory movement of these cubicles creates, I would say, a pleasant effect. An office building in Lyon, Confluence, Silo A3, Lyon 2013-2018. So this is an office building, and it looks like an office building. The same high quality glass that we noticed he enjoys employing. And, you know, these strict, clear-cut slabs of concrete. But there are look at the columns, you know, there are subtleties here. They become thinner and thinner towards the top. You compare this column, how it is at the ground floor, with the column at the top of the building. So things are not quite, they are not banal here. And you see, because of the different thickness or diameter of the column, the distance between them and the glass wall is different. It's smaller here than it is at the top. So there is a process of becoming, so to speak, also. So that you know, the building is not as static as it might, as it could have been. I don't know what this is. Something happened to my PowerPoint presentation, but I like what I see. I like the disorder of this accident. Unfortunately, it continues. I hope, yeah, it ended, but it's not bad. This could be a, you know, suggestion for a possible way of welcoming accidents, even unpleasant accidents, in the project, in the strategy of making a house or a project for a house. A house in Prague, 2013-2021. This will surprise you because it's so different from the previous work that we saw by him. Look at this. Built in brick, almost like a medieval, you know, fortress. And you would not have expected this kind of work from Georg Kerez, based on what we already saw. And this is the finalized work. Somehow I like it more when it was in the process of becoming, with all its imperfections and so on. So this is in Prague, Georg Kerez. And look at the houses left and right. They have nothing in common with this, you know, assemblage of cylinders that he employed for this house. Why he made it like this, I don't know. The Bahrain Pavilion at Expo 2020 in Dubai delayed 1 year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this was built actually in 2021, 2 years from from now, meaning backwards looking. And here it is, and I like again very much this you know, aleatory presence of various elements which are not, you know, strictly placed, what brings through the apparent disorder a certain level of movement and thus of freedom. And here we see also these elements, confusing almost, the whole atmosphere inside the pavilion. But I think this so-called confusion is actually beneficial, because it creates a certain turbulence within the building, which is conducive to being alert and creative. Interesting work, the Bahrain Pavilion in Dubai in 2021. Not bad. So we see that actually the work of this architect, a former architectural photographer, is rather complex, and he explores various things. And we are going to see in the last project that I present, and we are approaching the end of this presentation, a project which was not yet built, and I don't know if it will be built in China, but which is also explorative and with unexpected elements. I welcome chaos. I like the provocation that chaos represents, and here we have an example of it. The Swiss Pavilion at the Venice Biennial in 2016, which was also another proof that this architect doesn't like to follow the predictable path. Incidental space, this is how it was called, incidental space. And here it is. I actually went inside of this. You have to leave your shoes outside of it. And it's an installation, yes, but it's an installation which again rejects predictability, and invites to be open-minded and to leave your shoes outside of it and climb inside the cave. The rationalist might not like to leave his shoes outside, but those who are not, devoured by the continuously hungry monster called, cerebralism or Cartesianism or even rationalism, would be open to, enter the cave. And if we have these days a cave revival, then in 2016, Christian Keres was a foreseer or a visionary. Incidental space. You can see people enjoy visiting the incidental space. And here is Mr. Christian Kerez himself inside the incidental space. Now, this is the project that I mentioned in China, which was not yet built, but shows traces of what we saw earlier, and still is, surprising. A cultural district in China, in this place whose name I hesitate to pronounce. And here it is, the project. Again, it was not yet built. The cultural center, quite ample. I wonder those clouds above the city and above the cultural center are the clouds bringing possible rain, or the clouds of pollution, because these structures, if built, would require a lot of concrete. They are impressive, but we know that the effects of concrete can be problematic, not to say devastating, in terms of the pollution they provoke. Otherwise, the buildings are interesting, and you can see quite monumental. I mean, you can discern the silhouettes of the human beings, far away in that corner of the building, or here. But yes, they were to be impressive structures. They are quite monumental, these buildings, and you realize how big they are if you contemplate the silhouettes of the human beings there in the grass. Or here, for that matter. Concrete, concrete, and concrete again. Frank Lloyd Wright didn't quite like concrete. He called it a conglomerate, but I think Christian Keres is able to use concrete for some impressive results in terms of a proposal, because that's what it is for now. I took this material from Design Boom. And but look also at the buildings on the left, which remind one of the house he built in Prague. Interesting in a way, this way of medievalization of modernity. A cultural center in China. I wonder what the moon thinks or feels looking downwards towards the earth and seeing this building, which was not yet built. But who knows, maybe one day it will be, I don't know. Christian Keres. And the windows here are creating this ornamental pattern on these on the fluidities of the facades. Thank you.